Welcome back, I guess, to Vambrace Cold Soul. No, I'm not doing a new run or anything, but basically, as you can probably tell from the title, this is like sort of like a recap review type of thing of the game. So I'll note that Vambrace Cold Soul. I'll basically note I actually did a review for this game, and I actually think I can bring it up right here, so might as well. So let's just go. Actually, it's Community Hub I want to think right here, but whatever. Community Hub, and then we can go to the reviews. I think this is one I wrote right here. Yep, there we go. Alright, so I'll note that basically I took some time while I was basically uploading my last few videos here to basically do a big review. And I'll note that as you can see from here, I basically put not recommended for this game. And I figured I've basically already stated a lot of the reasons why I basically not recommend the game, and you can go read my review if you want to basically see that. But basically, I want to note that this is a game that I don't recommend because I feel like, it's a game that it misses the mark in far too many points. Yet it's also a game that I think I could possibly recommend in the future. Basically, this is a game that, a lot of work has gone into making a really good game here. It's basically got good artwork, it's got a soundtrack, it's got a fairly good story, and the characters are, decent. But the thing about the, video games and all that is that they're really only good, their gameplay is good. And Vambrace basically misses the mark on, too many fronts. Basically, I'll note that in my review. I know, there's, several things that, I disliked about the game. One of the first things I disliked was, say, the vigor system. I'll note that in this, in the Darkest Dungeon type of games and clones and all this stuff, there's basically always two, modifiers for resources. One's always for health, and then one's always for, something else. And in Darkest Dungeon, the second resource is always for stress, I guess. While here it's basically for vigor, which is, sort of similar, but they treat it very differently. And that's the thing. The thing about, this game is that it had, influence from lots of other games, Darkest Dungeon and FTL, but at the same time, I think the main problem with this game is that it didn't really, how can I put this? The game developers for this game did not really think through a lot of the mechanics and how to make them interesting, for example. They just put them in there for I guess because they're inspired by other games without actually thinking about why these mechanics were actually good or not. The thing about Vigor, for example, is that I found it to be very much similar to health in this game. Basically, how this game works, health is governing your character's life force. If they take too many hits and go to 0, they die. And at the same time, Vigor is basically very much the same thing. Basically, if they take too many Vigor hits, and it gets reduced to 0 to die. So it seems to the point what's the point of Vigor if they're basically doing the same thing, the stats and all that. I'll note that I think it's possible to fix a lot of stuff. It's possible they can have a Vigor system in here, but they need to make it so it's more interesting and fresh, basically, to how it basically interacts with the rest of the game. I'd probably make the Vigor system act like a hunger clock in many ways. Basically, they've already got the Mad Race as a hunger clock, but they could actually make the Vigor system the actual hunger clock. And, I could, suggest a way of doing that, for example, right here. So, basically, if you want Vigor, whenever you, move around into a room, interact with stuff, get hit by traps and stuff, you basically lose Vigor. But they could have actually changed it to be a system where, wherever you basically take an action, I think you lose Vigor. So, for example, maybe, you, enter a room, you lose a Vigor point. But then maybe you interact with an object and you lose a Vigor point. You enter combat and each round of combat, each time 4 of your characters take their move, they lose a Vigor point. So I mean, basically doing it that type of way. The thing about doing it that way, they actually make it so Vigor is more of a hunger clock. So you can't basically just do everything in anything in the game. Eventually, at some point, your Vigor is going to get really low because you're constantly doing all this stuff. And while you can possibly store it with items, that's really going to eat for your crafting supplies if you're not careful. So you have to basically plan your run around crafting or actually just trying to get to the end. I'll note that another thing about this game, something else that I noted as well that I sort of didn't like was basically how lyric sort of levels in this game. I think here's the thing. I actually like the idea her companions not being able to level. It basically has static levels and stuff, static stats and such. I think it would have been better if Lyric had, like, you know, flexible stats. So basically, if you wanted to, you could have, so, like, maybe, like, you know, you have, like, 3 guys, like a, you know, say, Berserker, a Celestine, and, like, you know, the Fencer. And basically to flesh out, like, your character's weaknesses, I think that'd be, like, awareness. You could make it so, like, you know, Lyric is, like, you know, able to, like, screw up her, like, awareness by a lot for, like, you know, a run. And then if you decide to change around your character to something else, you could basically change it to be something else. So basically maybe you go with, you know, the Fusilier, which basically has high awareness, and, like, you know, you flesh out all the other stats. Well, you don't really need Lyric to be, like, you know, doing any of that stuff, so she gets focused straight on combat. In many ways, like, you know, a lot of the stuff in this game, they could make this really interesting, and in a lot of ways, like, to manage your game, but in other ways, you know, they did do a pretty good job. Like, as I said, basically, like, you know, the fact that their companions are stacked, that's great, because it means you can actually swap around your companions. You don't like Berserker? Well, that's fine. It's easy enough to take out the Blood Mage. Or, maybe you know, want to basically try a different setup. You can. You can basically easily do that with this, like, you know, this game. And I did, like, you know, constantly throughout the game, basically, because, you know, for the most part, I didn't need to have, like, you know, this character or that character. I could have a warrior character I wanted to. Let's see here. There's something else I should probably note that I liked about this game. And it's sort of evading me right now, so if I remember I will, but whatever. I'll note that there's, like, you know, a lot of other stuff that, you know, I should probably know about this game. I'll note that this game is basically described as being a roguelite, but this is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot lately for, like, the roguelite group. I'm thinking that, you know, at some point I'm probably going to have a discussion thread, or I'm going to change, like, the roguelite spotlight into, like, discussing what is a roguelike and what is not a roguelike, or what is a roguelite, or what is not a roguelite. And in many ways, this game, Vambrace Cold Soul, I don't think this is a roguelike, and I don't even think it's a roguelite. Like, I actually don't think it's either one of these things, because there's no procedural generations for, like, the maps. Basically, the maps are always the same. The rooms get procedurally generated, but so what? I mean, I could play Left 4 Dead, and like, stuff gets, you know, procedurally generated there. In many ways, like, you know, I think there has to be a certain degree of, like, you know, roguelike'ness for a lot of stuff before it can be considered roguelike. And I also think that's the same for, like, being a roguelike for that matter as well. So, you know, this is not a game I consider to be a roguelite or a roguelite. I'll also note something else about this game as well. It didn't really have a whole lot of, like, you know, quality improvements in it. I'll note that for the most part, basically going through it, like, the first time as a playthrough for you guys, one of the reasons I basically, like, you know, played this, like, game fairly slow, and, like, you know, try to talk to everyone and all that stuff, I want to do that to basically, you know, show off, like, the like, you know, the love and care they put into this game. But at the same time, you couldn't skip that content, really, for the most part. Like, whenever I get into a dialogue, as you probably guessed, or, you know, noticed, I didn't have any options to skip that dialogue. I'd have to, like, play through that dialogue, like, from start to finish most of the time. Now, the developers are smart enough not to, like, have full conversations repeated over and over again. Like, you know, basically going for, like, chapter 5 again, I was able to skip a lot of the conversation because, like, you know, I've already done it, so they don't let me, like, you know, do it again. But at the same time, it would have been better, I think, if they just had an option to skip dialogue if you didn't want to read it. Or had like a no dialogue option for people who just want to play it for the gameplay's sake. This is a good game, but I mean, they could have done a whole lot, you know, better in a lot of areas of developers. You know, not just in, like, the fact that they could, like, made, like, the game a lot, like, you know, more skippable for content. Like, something I know by the way is that I found, like, playing this game, I really wanted to be sped up a lot of the time. Like, something I know about these games with lots of animation is that basically developers like to focus on having lots of animation, like, happen. So basically, like, you get to see all the attacks, like, the different characters, and you get to, like, see, like, you know, the traps and, like, you know, the surprise of stuff. But there's, like, no speed up option if you, like, you know, a quick on animation type of thing. And, you know, that's always bugs me and irks me in a lot of these games, but oh well. Anyhow, so yeah, there's basically, you know, things that could be fixed in this game. But here's the thing. Despite all its flaws, I actually do like this game. I don't recommend playing it, but I do like the concept for this game. There's a lot to like about this game. I saw, like, some people mentioning, like, is there going to be DLCs for this game? And, you know, I think the developer said they might have DLCs for this game. I don't think I'd play those DLCs. You know, I think they'd have to do a lot of improvement to get me to play this game again. But, you know, it's not a bad game for a lot of its, like, you know, its purposes. I I like the fact that there's lots of lore for this game. Like, they really, like, got the influence of Elder Scrolls down to a T with this game. I like, well, for most part, the story. Something I know about these games is that usually with a female heroine, you can almost expect, like, to be somewhat Mary Sue-ish. And in many ways, like, Lyric was a little bit Mary Sue-ish, but at the same time, it's sort of explained away a little bit. Like, she's wearing a Vambrace, so, like, there's a reason, like, she gets stronger, right, over her companions. And it seems like she's got, like, some special, like, destiny. And, it's actually revealed in the end, she does have some special destiny. So it's like, she's being played with, like, by, like, forces greater than her. Now, I'll note, by the way, there is apparently a New Game Plus for this game. I'm not really sure how to access it. It might be that, like, I have to, like, do the save again to, like, do it. But, I'm not going to really worry about that just for a simple reason that... Crap, did I not skip that? Alright, good. I'll note that for the most part, one of the things I really hate about this game is just the dialogue. You can't skip the dialogue, and, it's just annoying, but whatever. Anyhow, for the most part, I'm done with this game, and before I basically let you guys go, I want to note that if you basically know any, like, type of games like this, like, Darkest Dungeon type of style games, with, like, gothic or, stylized undertones of some sort, let me know. I'm actually interested in these games, and, I may want to look into, like, playing another game like this in the future. I mean, this game kept me content, despite the fact that it has lots of flaws to it. I wouldn't recommend it. But it was, like, a fun game to play. And yeah, that's basically it for Vambrace Cold Soul. Hope you guys enjoyed the series, and take care.